Hello and welcome back. A bit of a quick one this week, as there's only a couple things to talk about, but they're important things. First off, if you're watching on YouTube, welcome. I'm Patrick, the producer at Game Vulture, and this is the recap where I talk about gaming news. You can listen to the past episode on Spotify or on our website, arcasmag.com. But anyway, let's get into it. Last week, I talked a bit about the Charlie Kirk situation and how leftists in the gaming space are making disparaging comments about his murder. Drew Harrison, a former staff member at Sucker Punch, was fired. The founder of Kotaku was mocking his death. I mentioned them, but as it turns out, there are many, many more examples of people making disparaging comments about his death on social media. Not a game-related incident, but Jimmy Kimmel's show was suspended due to his remarks on the assassination. I remember when Tenacious D cancelled their tour because of Carl Gass's comments on the attempted Trump assassination. But all of these comments in the gaming space are coming from people who are specifically left-leaning and who are political activists, which gives rise to the question of why there are so many leftist activists in the gaming space. Now games journalists are twisting the truth and publishing misinformation. Nothing new, unfortunately. It reminds me of Gamergate. I haven't heard anyone call this Gamergate 3, but it's big enough of an issue that biased games journalists, so games journalists, are covering the firings and the few responses issued by companies in regards to the comments of their employees and the firings. On that note, the CEO of Sucker Punch, Brian Fleming, did an interview with GameFile where they finally issued a response on the Drew Harrison firing. So this comes from GameFile. Drew's no longer an employee here. I think we're aligned as a studio that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us, and we condemn that, kind of in no uncertain terms. That's sort of our studio, and that's kind of where we are. So it's good they issued a response, but there's a lot of other companies that refuse to comment on the situation, otherwise make very vague comments or responses, like the response Microsoft made. And now the community manager of Ready or Not was fired for their comments on Charlie Kirk. So there's a lot of people who have their careers on the line due to the comments they made about the murder. And it's, again, not surprising that these games journalists are only talking about the situation when it either paints the fired person in a positive light. Meanwhile, they're refusing to comment on the amount of people in the gaming space making disparaging comments about the murder, such as Kotaku. There's this one journalist there named Ethan Gatch who just straight up abuses people that he disagrees with in his articles. And again, it's not surprising, these people are everywhere in the gaming space. But it's good to see some consequences finally being hashed out. It's good to see people actually taking ethics and classiness into account. And following the shooting, someone has made a Steam group named CharlieTweetsDetected, which lists all of the games whose developers have made disparaging comments about the assassination. And I think anyone that cares about ethics in the gaming space should keep an eye on this page. And some of these games include Sucker Punch, Blizzard, Dragon Age, Among Us, Power Wash Simulator, Gears of War Reloaded, Subnautica, Final Fantasy, Tomb Raider, Battlefield 6. All of these games and their studios have had people on their teams make disparaging comments, and the biggest offender on the list seems to be Bethesda, and their games include Indiana Jones, Doom, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Starfield. Bethesda also posted a video to Twitter mocking his death. It was very obviously a slant toward his assassination. They've since deleted the video, but they've yet to issue any sort of statements or response. The video in question was a short clip from the Indiana Jones game where Indiana Jones he's talking to a cat and he says, you don't care about fascists, do you? I'm going to try to play devil's advocate and say that considering the post was a week after the assassination, perhaps it wasn't mocking Charlie Kirk or it wasn't disparaging commentary on people being upset about people making disparaging comments about the assassination. But the post happens at a very convenient time, especially when someone working at Bethesda was seen mocking his death. Another big offender is Night Dive Studio and Remedy Entertainment. If you want to check out the page, it's called CharlieTweetsDetected. It's not a very pleasant thing to talk about, but it's important. Anyway, let's move on. Randy Pitchford, and he's the CEO of Digital Foundry, which recently released Borderlands 4. It has a lot of issues, specifically in terms of performance. A lot of people are having trouble running the game or even just launching the game. It's been known to crash. And Digital Foundry has confirmed that the performance of Borderlands 4 degrades over time. And Randy Pitchford, he is in hot water because he keeps making these comments about people who are criticizing the game. So the response to the poor performance of Borderlands 4, specifically its performance degrading over time, their response is to just restart the game. That's not a reasonable fix. You shouldn't need to restart the game to be able to play the game. Other comments he's made include telling people to make their own game if they have a problem with Borderlands 4. He also said that he doesn't have an issue running the game and just ignoring the plethora of other players who are experiencing performance issues. It's not unexpected that a big AAA game, especially one that runs on Unreal Engine 5, has performance issues day one. But what is unique is the amount of comments Randy Pitchford is making. It never ends well when you react negatively to player feedback. But moving on, Xbox prices have risen again. So about 6 months ago, the price went up, and it was just announced that prices have gone up again. The same thing happened with the PlayStation 5, and people on social media are questioning who's going to buy an Xbox when there aren't that many games on it and when it's so expensive, when the console costs as much as a mid-range PC but performs worse. In other news, there's some drama about this localizer named Katrina Leonidakis, who recently got hired at a quote-unquote major Japanese video game company. Her new position is the localization director, and she received some criticism in the past, specifically for games like 13 Sentinels and also some other anime where she inserts Western gender politics or Western neologisms into the translation. The criticism there is that these translations aren't accurate to the original Japanese, and this is sort of an issue that's been going on for a while, specifically with anime and localized Japanese games that were translated into English. And there's concern happening from both sides, from Japanese people and from English players and consumers. People don't want someone's personal politics inserted into the thing that they're trying to consume. They want a faithful translation, not something that was obviously done for political reasons. And there seems to be a trend of Westerners, or specifically left-leaning political activists, trying to bastardize Japanese translations. But anyway, there's some more censorship concerns happening, specifically with this one developer, where the developer said that they can't update their game with extra not safe for work content due to Steam's new policies. And so they'll have to implement it through DLC instead. So it's a situation where they can put NSFW content in a DLC, but they can't add it to the base game due to Steam's policies. So this is an article from Automaton Media. Games on Steam can no longer be updated with NSFW content post-launch, but Valve isn't the problem, developer says. And the developer in question is Crimson Delight Games. And it's unfortunate to see the whole censorship thing that's currently happening on the internet affecting indie developers and affecting the content that they can publish. Because one benefit of the indie scene is that you don't necessarily have to comply with the standards of publishers. The idea is that you have a lot more freedom to do the thing that you want to do. But due to the censorship situation happening with MasterCard, Visa and stuff, and all of that affecting what game platforms can publish, it's unfortunate that's affecting small creators. But anyway, a bit of a quick one. That's it for this week.